Welcome, horror fam, to HHN 365, a Halloween Horror Nights podcast. My name is Duff, and here with me is our producer, Nico.
Hey, howdy, hey.
And also, we have a guest as we are doing the final installment of our HHN Hollywood series that we've been doing across the year. And of course, that is Jonathan from the Hauntline. Jonathan, how's it going?
Gentlemen, thank you for having me on again. Nico, 10 points for that. Hey, howdy, hey, man. That was good. That was supercharged. I love it.
Yeah, I've been working on that, so I thought it would be good for this time around. Thank you. Glad you noticed.
We hop in chats, and he's like, all right, I need to be ready for when Jonathan's back, and I'm going to let it rip. Practicing with us, and it came out good. Good job.
Thanks for having me back on, boys. I'm excited to talk HHN and, get over some of the post-Horror Nights blues because they're there. They're there. But, it was a good season. It was fun.
Oh, yeah. No, here, full clarity. We recorded this episode already. It was actually going to be like a week or 2 weeks before the event ended, and the file went to shit, completely corrupt. Nothing we could do. Tried our best, but we're here recording it again. Unfortunately, last time it didn't have Nico, so I guess fortunately now you guys get to hear Nico as well. So
And that's why the file failed, because I wasn't here to make sure that it worked. The one time I let you boys record, try to record on Discord without me, and everything goes to shit.
we need our producer. This is why I give you the producer credit. We were just talking about this.
That's right.
Now I'm starting to think there was a little sabotage here, but maybe not.
I could have done it. I was too busy at Area 51 going through Area 15 going through Omega Mart out in Vegas. So
nice.
Well, that beats this. So yeah, good job.
Yeah.
Congratulations. But you're back here, unfortunately, with us, not in Vegas. As we said, we are going to be mainly discussing HHN Hollywood, but we are also going to toss it to Jonathan a bit to hear about his experience here in Orlando, but mainly Hollywood focused. And why not just get right into it? I was thinking first we'll just kind of discuss the event as a whole, how we felt about it, and then eventually we'll get into rankings and more detailed stuff. So Jonathan, basically, the event as a whole, how did you enjoy HHN 2021 in Hollywood?
It was fun. I had a good time for the most part. I mean, I feel like every year the wait times get worse and worse. So I kind of stopped going there. Like if I'm there past opening, I know that I'm probably not really going to wait in lines because they get pretty long. However, outside of that, I mean, the scare actors in the scare zones were bringing it. They were on fire in the maze. We got invited out this year by Horror Nights Orlando, of all places, to visit Hollywood. So that was pretty cool. So all in all, though, solid season, man. I had a blast. It's Horror Nights, especially here in Hollywood. I think you go in expecting to get delivered a product, and well, they delivered.
Yeah, and I think one thing, and I'm actually gonna ask you about your opinion on this part after I finish. We kind of went into it. I think basically everybody with like, we know why they're bringing back a lot of mazes, but we're kind of worried about what that's going to do for the quality of the event. And it's a little different for me because all the returning mazes I had not experienced yet in Hollywood. So they were new to me, even though I'd watch POVs, but that's quite a bit different. So honestly, I was very surprised at how much I was enjoying all the mazes outside of one, which we'll get to later. And a lot of them, spoiler, Halloween 4 really surprised me how much I enjoyed it. I kind of thought that would be, akin to our Halloween 4 in Orlando, which was the worst example of the Halloween franchise. And, maybe even worse than that. And it definitely was not. It was a very pleasant surprise. And, the event as a whole, I thought that they hit the vibe pretty well. Stuff like Demon City really just felt like HHN. Silver Scream Queens walking through that felt like almost an Orlando style scare zone, which kind of made me feel at home. It was nice to experience. Having the Terror Tram back, even though I wasn't there when it was missing. So, it's been there for me the whole time. It was a lot of fun still. Of course, we're going to have some complaints. And one house that I don't think either of us, well, I know neither of us enjoyed. We talked about that a lot in our first recording of this. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. But Jonathan, how did you feel about those houses that did end up returning compared to how you felt beforehand?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's kind of when they announced everything, I was a little bummed because, especially at Horror Nights, you expect something new. They've kind of set you up to expect something new each season. And especially this year in particular with the rumor mill, I mean, things were all over the place. There were so many changes, things got added, things got taken away. But I think all in all, the returning lineup this year was solid. I mean, Halloween 4. They changed it quite a bit. When I first went through it, I think, in fact, the last time I was on the podcast, I was like, yeah, they didn't change it too much, but they actually changed quite a bit in it. And they added some new tricks in it that I really, really enjoyed. So that was cool to see that. The Exorcist, although it's a repeat maze, I honestly really enjoy it from like a visual effects. I guess from a visual standpoint, it looks really cool. It's a really cool maze. And then the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was actually kind of a surprise hit for me. I was I don't know. I was honestly very surprised by how fleshed out the maze was. And of course, the Terror Tram returning was a lot of fun. And I think they really did a lot of fun things with it this year that made it stick out to me. So all in all, I mean, with the repeats and with the return of the Terror Tram, solid job, y'all.
Yeah, and then you know what? Next year we're probably going to go back to normal and getting all new stuff. So just a 1 year gap, going back to experience old things. Can't complain too much about that, especially if it's executed well, which seems like both of us agree it was. So good job.
Yeah, absolutely.
So more specifically, let's talk about first. Actually, let's stick with the Terror Tram. You were just kind of discussing it. So the Terror Tram is something that I think people are kind of ready to move on from for the most part. It seemed like it's kind of this, especially coming from Orlando, this very unique haunt experience, right? It's like a hayride on steroids.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's kind of just like transportation to scare zones. And that's typically how it's executed. So, not everyone was super excited. I was excited to see it return just to get to do it again, assuming it never comes back once again. Get to experience a couple times in my life at least. This year, they did have a much different and what seemed to be shorter path than usual because of some of the maze locations. And man, I got to say, I think that actually helped a lot. It felt like there was a lot less empty space and useless walking. And it felt like basically once you get dropped off, you were in the action. And, it felt like you were there for a reason and not just like, why am I just fucking walking forever?
No, absolutely, man. They trimmed the fat and they gave us a pretty solid steak, man. I mean, all in all, I think without all the excess walking, without kind of the empty areas, without areas, frankly, without performers, it really made it more of a concise and more action-packed walk than in years before, where, like you said, we were kind of just wandering about aimlessly in some sections, being like, hey, why are we in the dark right now? Why are there nothing but sound effects playing right now? And so, yeah, honestly, I really enjoyed I thought the Purge theme was a great idea. I really enjoyed that overlay. The performers, and this is kind of a consistent theme. Maybe it's because we didn't have it in 2020, but the performers in the Terror Tram were top notch, man. They were in it to win it. And, there was a lot more vignettes this time around, I think. That made for some really awesome interactions with the performers. They tried some new things with lighting, especially in the World of Worlds crash set. I mean, it looked more alive, and it felt like a Purge party, and they did a great job of really driving home that theme. So all in all, I mean, I was personally one of the ones that was ready to see it go, the Terror Tram in general, because it just kind of got a little repetitive to me. But the little changes that they made this year really made it like I want it to come back next year. And I'm hoping that next year they use the area that's behind the Bates Motel as more of a scare zone, gauntlet zone out there. Because I was kind of keeping my fingers crossed for that this year, but I know budget restraints, blah, 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 time constraints. I know that that all played a factor in there, but I think the future is bright for the Terror Tram, and I'm excited to see what else they do with it.
Yeah, definitely hope to see it return. And then I agree that I think the Purge is a perfect IP for the Terror Tram. I think it worked so well. The year I went before was Hollywood Harry, which is something that, if you've heard me on this podcast, you would think I would definitely enjoy that more. but I don't know, when you're walking through it, it didn't really feel cohesive to what you were seeing on the screens, the
Right.
trams. This kind of all tied it together. It was the purge. The screens related to what you're seeing out there walking around as well, and I think that helped a lot. And I haven't mentioned it on this episode yet, but I was doing a RIP tour in Hollywood, so I didn't technically experience the Terror Tram. I experienced the Terror Trolley, which is just the trolleys they use for VIP during daytime. So pretty much the same thing, except you get a small group. A lot of it's actually stanchioned off separately, so you get your own space to walk. You kind of get like an express pass to go see the photo op with Norman Bates. So just little nice touches for being an RIP. And I think it was really nice to have that additional space because, sometimes those large groups getting off the tram is a little too much. You just feel like sardined in a bit walking around.
Yeah.
Not having to deal with that part was pretty nice. So I watched it walk by us a couple times. I was like, "Ooh, I'm happy I'm on this side." But yeah, otherwise, pretty much the same experience. Just a bit more space to work with.
And to that, I hope that they continue that tradition of kind of having a little bit of a separate path for the RIP tour, because in years past they've used parts of the back lot before, like they used Amity Island, and they did like a whole projection thing down there, which I thought was really cool. And if they continue doing that, even if it's just that separate path that's in the War of the Worlds set, I mean, it kind of adds more pizzazz, if you will, to the RIP experience, especially on the Terror Tram. So I'm glad you got to experience that, man. It looked pretty fun.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was great. Hopefully it comes back because I'm never not doing RIP again. So I'll get to experience it the same way, hopefully.
Nice.
All right. You know what? Let's knock out a small one before we get into the really fun stuff. And that's Jabberwockies returning to HHN. So you actually know my feelings about this were quite surprising. I have not held back words on how I feel about Jabberwockies at HHN. I think Jabberwockies are fine on their own. I just think the fit in HHN and what they do at HHN typically doesn't work. Doesn't work for me at all. I kind of enjoyed this year's. It wasn't the highlight of my night by any means, but it was at a point of the night where we had done a lot of walking and kind of getting to sit down and AC and just relax with a show that wasn't story driven like it has been in the past, but just kind of the Jabberwockies doing the Jabberwockies, playing some bangers and dancing. It was great, I don't think the word great is necessarily what I meant to say, but it was better than before, and it was a enjoyable part of the evening.
Nice. I must admit, I didn't watch this year's show at all. To be completely honest with you,
it's okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna check it out on YouTube. I should have checked it out before the podcast recording, actually. But and I know Nico will be right here with me. But after going to Orlando and watching the Nightmare Fuel show, I mean, I just didn't even want to.
Oh,
give it a shot.
Yeah. I want them to have a residency at the MGM Grand instead of Jabberwockies.
I want them to have a residency at City Walk, actually.
Ooh,
that'd be cool. Yeah, instead of having the SNL nightclub that we're supposedly getting, we get a Nightmare Fuel nightclub now. Now that's smart thinking right there.
There you go. Yeah, I'd love to see it. And I'd love to see a show in that style make its way over to Hollywood. Because, I mean, good God, Nightmare Fuel was 10 out of 10. It was perfection. I mean, everything you said on the podcast episode, your guys' last episode where you talked about HHN 30, Nico, I'm right there with you, brother. Holy crap, man.
There we go.
I loved it, dude.
I'd worry you'd set fire to the Hollywood Hills, well, with how much fire they kick out of that show. All right. Yeah, that's pretty much all our thoughts on Jabberwockies. We don't need any more than that. All right. So let's start with scare zones. Jonathan, where do you want to kick us off? Do you want to start a little lower on our kind of how we feel, or up high?
Yeah, let's start low. We'll build to the top.
All right. Sounds good. So Chainsaw Rangers in that case. Yeah, it was people with chainsaws. All right. They had a small space near the front of the park, and that's in masks. That's about it.
Yeah, and that front area is always pretty rough because they just don't do anything with it, and it's a bummer because I know they have very limited space over there, but especially in the day and age of like projection mapping, I feel like they could do something up top on the buildings that they have in that entrance plaza, just to make it feel a little bit more like a scare zone. Because oftentimes, more often than not, it just ends up being like a really loud entrance to Horror Nights, which is kind of like off-putting because you've got loud music and then you've got the loud chainsaws and not a lot of theming outside of that. So I want them to do something more with this area. I want them to figure out a way how to make it a little bit more exciting because truly the way that it is now, you know, I mean, you have to walk through it. Otherwise I'd skip it.
Yeah, I would have, outside of it being my one visit, and having to check everything out. If I didn't have to see it, I probably wouldn't take the time. I will say something I didn't see while I was there, but I've seen video of since, is they have a pretty cool like breakout. It seemed like it was probably during cast change where they were all there and they would like headbang to the music and like had this little like almost ritual going on, and they broke out, typical chainsaw horde style. And I thought that was pretty cool. It doesn't help it move up, especially since I didn't see it in person. But hey, the scare actors were at least doing something fun, so that's a positive, I guess.
Yeah, and honorable mention too to the chainsaw chase out they do at night. That's always pretty fun. If you stick around till closing, you see them all kind of line up, and they'll kind of do something similar where they'll all stand like mannequins, and then they'll go crazy and scare people, and then they'll have like a little moment where they gather together. So yeah, honorable mention for that. But absolutely, it's not going to like shoot them up the ranks at all. I completely agree with you there.
I would say one thing that would help this a lot is if they just didn't call it an official scare zone and just said like in Orlando they have roaming chainsaw hordes,
right?
Just like, hey, this is an official thing, but it's always here, so that's fun. I think that would help rather than trying to pitch it as a legit scare zone and then not actually getting what is a scare zone. So yeah,
agreed.
No thought. So next that would lead us to Demon City, quite literally, because they touch each other. Demon City, I enjoyed. I think it needed to be fleshed out a lot more. I think there weren't too many scare actors for the space, to be honest, from what I saw on my several walkthroughs in it. But it nailed the HHN vibe. The flames, the music, the lighting, the actual stylization of the characters. It was just very HHN. I don't think it did anything extremely well, but it just had a vibe I enjoyed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want them to never ever take away the flame towers again, because it's so perfect for that area. And it really, every time I see them, I'm like, we're home. You know what I mean? Like, here it is again. So it was kind of a treat to walk in and see them this year and be like, yeah, man, like after a year away, to have something like a very quote unquote old school element of Horror Nights Hollywood back. I loved it. The stilt performers out in that area in Demon City, top notch, man. Those fuckers can move. I don't know how they do it without rolling an ankle. Kudos to them. And they had like really cool movable jaws. So they ended up being very expressive, and they had these huge long hands that also were very like, I don't know, they moved very well. Amazing work out there. And you're absolutely right. I think they tried their hardest to kind of flesh out a scare zone experience, and I think I'll take that over absolutely nothing. In the prior, like for instance in Chainsaw Rangers, right, we had nothing. And in fact, I would hope that in the following years, instead of having two scare zones in that very front area, just make it one. Just make it one very big scare zone. Keep the theming going throughout. Add some projection. Add some lighting. So that way, there's a little bit of more of connection there, as opposed to like, oh, why are there animals and now there's demons? What's happening here?
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I think that would make a ton of sense. It would give it a bit more space. You could add a bunch more scare actors, and then it actually makes sense. It's not just like hey, here's this random little horde of people, and then the scare zone where they're basically walking into. There's no separation.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think that would help a lot, to be honest. And then that leaves us with Silver Scream Queens. By the way, I didn't set us up for rankings because I think these are our rankings. We just went 3-1 for both of us, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Yeah. So there you go. That's our rankings. The order we just did this in, bottom to top. So yeah, Silver Scream Queens was. I'll let you take this away because you had some interesting things to say on our previous recording.
Oh man, I mean, honestly, top notch, dude. The performers there were, the energy was always through the roof, and that combined with Slash's score really made for a very fun scare zone. And it's very different from the ones that we've had in the past, because I don't know, I feel like in the past they've kind of done the same equation, but this year the combination of the lighting, the music, the performers really came together and gave it this over the top energy where I never wanted to leave that scare zone. And the interactions that you would get from the performers, the makeup, the costuming, really, really top notch, man. I thoroughly enjoyed the scare zone, and I'm bummed that we're not going to get it again. And it was the perfect pairing to the Bride of Frankenstein Lives, the maze. I mean, I love when they kind of spill out a maze into a zone like that, because it just, it continues the story just a little bit. And I did love the theming of like their movie monsters come to life, and now they're populating the area. Honestly, Silver Scream Queens, 10 out of 10, dude. They killed it every single night. The performers, again, kudos to all of you. Backbreaking work indeed, but y'all made it so alive. Y'all gave it so much character, and just the little things that you would do out there. And to me, it really it's the closest a scare zone in Horror Nights has ever come to being like a scare zone in Orlando or at Not Scary Farm, for that matter. So congratulations, y'all.
I mean, to be honest, I'd echo basically everything you said. And then I'd also add on to all the praise you already gave to the scare actors. I think the way it was executed was great, because you'd watch them scare the shit out of people. They utilize that fog so well. But at the same time, if you actually interacted with them, they always had like this very playful demeanor. They were never like super serious and like full on interactions. They were very playful. Like, Nico, have you ever dreamed about a Noxuna Moon just like joking around with you? Because that's what happens in the scare zone.
A what?
Right. A Noxuna Moon?
A what?
from the Mummy?
Okay. Sorry. I was like, a knock from a moon. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever you say, Dov. Yeah. Now I know what you say. Yeah, now from the Mummy. Okay, I'm with you there.
Yeah. So a knock for the moon. She wonderful performance. It was great. But yeah, no, I thought the utilization of the screens and the way the scare actors use that mixed with the fog. The scare actors put on a hell of a performance in that zone.
Oh yeah.
So great job. And then I think that's probably, I've only been 2 years, but my favorite scare zone I've seen in Hollywood by quite a bit.
Yeah, and just know that truly, even though it's just your second visit, you've seen one of the best scare zones there's ever been. So it's going to be hard to top that for sure.
I will say I did see Holidays in Hell, which I really enjoyed a lot.
That one was a lot of fun too. Yeah.
So, but I mean, I feel like it's kind of cheating. It's basically like a maze that was outside and then became an actual maze the year after, because
right.
I feel like that's cheating a little, but it was great. But I'd still put Silver Scream Queens above it. So, anyways, that pretty much wraps up scare zones. I think that was an easy discussion because there was a clear winner for us and a clear bottom. So easy enough. Mazes, on the other hand, we're probably gonna have a similar list again, I think. I know we share a bottom, but
definitely.
Let's not rank them yet. Let's kind of just discuss a bit, and we'll start in a random place like The Exorcist. Why not? So The Exorcist is a returning property, and I believe is basically the same thing you guys had before, right? In 2016.
Essentially beat for beat the exact same maze.
Mm-hmm. I will say the facade is very solid, looks great.
Yes.
I think Hollywood obviously always gets knocked about the black walls. This is a maze that actually has a purpose and uses them for something, which is scares. This was the scariest maze by far because it's half black walls, but the black walls have fucking scare actors everywhere. Near the end, it gets a little repetitive and boring that it keeps happening. But I like that there was actual usage to those areas. Otherwise, the actual scenes themselves are what you'd expect. I think they were executed well. They look good. But just like the black wall scares, everything else gets a bit repetitive.
Right.
I mean, it was a fun maze. I think, mainly because of they took the opportunity to not just kind of be like, all right, here's the Exorcist, but they just went, yeah, we're just going to try to scare the shit out of you while you're walking through it too. So that makes it fun. It's not the most impressive maze. I don't think the sets were anything too special. They look like the bedroom. They were pretty spot on. And
right.
But like, obviously, there's not too much more you can build off of. So nothing stands out too much. It was just kind of it was fun and a fine maze at the end of the day.
Yeah, it did the trick. You got in there, you saw Reagan, you saw the priest, you got scared. You're absolutely right in saying that this is one of few cases where the black walls really do kind of add to the experience. And, I want to challenge anybody out there to try and come up with a different way to execute The Exorcist, which takes place in maybe all of 3 rooms in the film. I've kind of tried to do it myself, and it's difficult. It's very difficult to do it. But I think for what it was and for the way that they executed it, it couldn't have been any better. I myself thoroughly enjoy all the effects that they do in there, like the moving bed, the part where they got the floating Reagan, the lighting, the fog, all really, really awesome. So I think, if you're going to repeat a maze, this one to me is probably the best choice because it gets the job done. And consistently, it was probably the one with the longest wait. Now, I don't know if that was because of popularity. I'm going to get a little nerdy here for a second. I don't know if that was because it was popular or because of the way they were loading it, because we went on the closing night and I fully expected to try to get through everything that night. And we got there early. We were probably there before the 6 o'clock opening. And well, we were, in fact, because we did kind of our version of Stay and Scream, where we went in as daytime guests, and then we stayed as Horror Nights guests. And they loaded that line so long that it was like they opened the mazes at 6 o'clock. They opened the queue for The Exorcist probably at around maybe 5:30 at the earliest. So by the time that we got into the maze and the maze actually started moving, we waited half an hour. We didn't move that much at all. We weren't even inside of the sound stage at like the 40-minute point.
Oh,
we were
no.
like, okay, we're not doing this one.
That's insane.
Yeah, we got to a point where we had to make a choice. Either we wait to go through The Exorcist all the way, and we had already waited about 30, 40 minutes. We either wait for The Exorcist or we try to go up to the upper lot and try to hit Hill House right at the beginning of the night. So that was, to me, a big operational mistake, because then you're already starting the event with a giant line for one of your mazes, and you don't have any of your other mazes open. So that kind of, to me, sets people behind from the get-go. And, that doesn't typically make for a very happy guest.
And you're not the only one I've heard this from. If you listen to Hung Up on Horror's Hollywood review, they also have some not so great things to say about how The Exorcist was preloaded. I don't think it's been a bit, but I don't think it was exactly the same complaint. But in similar fashion, how they were preloading that made for a poor experience for them.
Very interesting.
And that, how you start your evening, not always sets you off great. Is that necessarily detriment to the house, or I'm sorry, the maze itself? I guess not. I would try not to include that, but at the same time, we're only human. If we're not having a great time, it's going to carry in. So that's a negative effect that can bring it down. I will say it does get positive points, because anytime you walk in and you hear that like amazing score slapping, like ding, there you go, point for you.
Totally. And the facade is really great too. I really enjoy the facade. And again, from like an effect standpoint, another point for me. Great job. But yeah, very interesting decision to load it that way. I think if you're going to preload mazes, preload all of your mazes, not just the one, because then you're kind of creating traffic where there really doesn't have to be. But that's just me.
Yeah, no, it seems one area that you could definitively say Hollywood lacks a bit compared to Orlando is operations for HHN. They don't fully have it down quite as well. And to be fair, it's a difficult park layout to work for HHN. You know, it's not an easy task, but you think it's been happening for so long and they be a little bit better at this point, maybe.
Right.
But you know, maybe they'll just keep getting better as time goes on, or you know, we'll just accept that that's how it is and keep complaining about it every year. We'll see. We'll see.
Hey, man, it gives us content, so it's all good.
Exactly right. All right. Next maze we'll go to is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Nico, you'll be glad to hear it's also pretty solid in Hollywood. I don't think it was as good as Orlando's, but you would have enjoyed it nonetheless, probably. So a lot of it for me is it wasn't super memorable. Like not much out of all the mazes. I look back at it for positive or negative reasons. This left the least impact on me. There's like one big moment I remember, and that's one of the Leatherface scare actors using all the space that this maze had to his advantage. Full sprinted at this like 6'8" dude and threw his chainsaw right at his neck and literally just held up everybody, and it was phenomenal. I'd never seen any scare actor in a maze or a house get that aggressive and like just fully stop everyone. Like he literally put the chainsaw to his neck. It was crazy. If it was anyone but that massive 6'8" dude, they probably would have hit the floor and shit their pants. But yeah, otherwise, like I remember the scenes vaguely, but not super detailed. It's just, I don't know. I feel like the sets were fine. They weren't extremely fleshed out. You know, I feel like when you're looking at a property like this, where you're gonna have so much repetitiveness from the scare actors that you really need to flesh out the sets themselves to add a little bit more flair. I didn't fully get that here. I thought the scare actor performances, just like that one, were phenomenal throughout this maze. I thought that's probably the one big standout for this one as a whole is the scare actors' performances. But yeah, man, I mean, the only thing I remember is that there was some actual like body siff, which I was like, oh, this year, okay, good on you, Hollywood, I guess. But yeah, no, it's kind of again one of those. It was fine, but it didn't leave an impact on me. So kind of like middle of the road.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. In fact, the last time, the last podcast that we tried to record, as you were kind of giving your description, I literally had to go to YouTube to like watch a walkthrough of it because I really didn't remember very much of it at all. Whereas in Orlando, I can tell you like a bunch of highlights that I really enjoyed. So I'll give him this much though. As far as the scenic design goes for 2021, surprisingly, Texas Chainsaw Massacre was pretty high up there in terms of like filling the rooms with stuff, with the scenic design elements, which was a huge surprise to me. I honestly kind of walked into it expecting a black wall fest, but it wasn't that. They actually really fleshed out the house. They had a lot of good moments with Leatherface throughout. Lots of Leatherface in it, by the way, which obviously. But yeah, to my surprise, especially not truly being a huge fan of the IP, or I guess truly being fatigued of the IP, I had my expectations set very low. But then I walked out of it being like, oh, okay, not bad.
Yeah, pretty much in my opinion. Not bad. Not bad. And I did forget there is one thing. I don't know how I forgot to mention this part because I thought not necessarily how impressive the scene itself was, but appreciating that they did it and pulled it off. One of the most iconic kills in horror, in classic horror probably, in which he kills the guy in the wheelchair and then actually execute it in the maze. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. I appreciate you attempting that and pulling it off. That's cool. Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, so those two mazes we started with are pretty, I think the next four will have a bit more opinion coming towards them. So we'll go to Halloween 4 next. So Halloween 4, as I said earlier, was a big surprise to me because I expected it to be more akin to Orlando's version of Halloween 4 and potentially even worse than that. And that's not a house I enjoyed very much. So expectations going in were super low. However, very pleasantly surprised. I think it brings it back to what becomes the issue in these slasher and especially Halloween mazes and houses, and that's the repetitiveness. Our Halloween 4, it just became. It wasn't Halloween 4. It was just Michael Myers, the house. That's all it was. Just everywhere you looked, he was just everywhere, everywhere. It was ridiculous and too repetitive, and wasn't fun because of that. This one, yeah, you still get a lot of them, of course, but they utilize a bunch of different characters. They utilize him in a bunch of different ways. Um, and I think, again, there's only so much you can do with a property like that. You're going to see him a lot, but I think just giving him anything other than coming at you knife above head with, a trigger of that iconic sound, it was just nice to get some variety. That's all. And I feel like a lot of people didn't love this from what I've been hearing and reading on social media. Yeah, I've seen some not necessarily negative, like it's the bottom, but ranked pretty low. But I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's so funny too because I really enjoyed it as well. In fact, this is one of the mazes that I regret not going through more often, especially after watching like a refresh video before the podcast recording. I was like, dude, and also big kudos to the team. Clearly, they were giving us Halloween 3. Clearly, they were building Halloween 3, and then to have to pivot and to bring back Halloween 4 and to do it in the short timeline that they had, they did an amazing job because they changed quite a bit in the maze. They changed a lot of scenes in the maze as compared to the one that we had in 2018. And a lot of the changes they made, to me, really improved the experience as a whole. The finale was greatly improved. The parts where you're kind of walking to Haddonfield, and there's I guess you can call them scrim scares behind the fencing. Those were incredible. Also, I totally it hit me. I'm like, somebody was probably walking through Hill House because they had very similar effects in there, and was like, you know what if we do this in Halloween 4 as well? Because that's kind of how the bent neck lady showed up a lot. However, it really worked in Halloween 4. So I'm gonna be honest with you, Halloween 4, especially after rewatching some of the footage that I got, and then also kind of comparing it to 2018, it moved up in my ranks, and I'm very bummed that I didn't go through it more. And again, IP fatigue aside, I think anytime I hear that Halloween theme at a Halloween event, I'm hyped.
Oh yeah, when anytime that kicks on, you're just like, okay, yeah, this is a haunt. Hell yeah,
here we go, baby.
And I like how they also utilized him behind windows. I really enjoyed the staircase scene. I think it just had a bunch of different things, and I appreciated all of it, and it made for a really enjoyable and for me surprising house. Or maze. So fantastic work there. Next one we'll go to is. No, we'll save that. We're going to save that one. We'll do the Curse of Pandora's Box.
Yes.
Which I would say surprised me, but it didn't, because I'd already watched a POV of this, and I remember thinking, I shouldn't like this maze based off everything I typically enjoy, but it looks fucking fun. And guess what? I shouldn't like this maze, but it was a lot of fucking fun. I mean, listen, it has everything I dislike. It has basic sets with like neon colored paint splashed everywhere, Party City quality costumes, basically no set design. It's just something that's not what I'm looking for in a maze whatsoever. But you just start off with there being a pre-show for a maze, which is insane. And I know you aren't going to catch it every time. I was lucky enough that on my first run we got the full pre-show experience, so that was a lot of fun. And then I it's one of those ones I can't quantify why I enjoy it so much. It was just fun. I don't know. I literally said why I would hate it and why I should, but I walked through every time I went through, which was a few times. I enjoyed it a lot and couldn't figure out exactly why. It was just a lot of fun, and I wish I had more to actually say about it and sound clever or something or knowledgeable, but it was just fun.
Nice, man. Yeah, and for me, it's two reasons why I thoroughly enjoy Pandora's Box, why I enjoyed it in 2019, and why I was happy to have it back in 2021. One, like you said, fun. It's a fun time. You go through it, and it's not the most terrifying of mazes, but it is a great time. And two, for me, it's the nostalgia factor. It's taking me back to the early years of haunts where things were a lot simpler. And I've said it before on the podcast, it's back when the walls were mostly just flats with, like, instead of an actual textured castle wall in it, it was painted to look like a castle wall. It's the neon, it's the day glow stuff, it's the simplicity and the costuming and the set decor. It's just a great time. And honestly, if that keeps popping back up in the lineup, I wouldn't be mad at all. In fact, I hope that we get some sort of a sequel down the line where we get some different scenes. And
that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be very happy for that. So fun and nostalgic. Pandora's Box. I enjoy it.
I feel like I should clarify one thing. Last week, to describe Beetlejuice, I used the word fun in a more negative form.
Right.
This week, I am using the word fun as, like, legitimately I was having fun. Not a fun approach to it, but I enjoyed it and had fun. Just to clarify the kind of fun I'm talking about this time. Not Beetlejuice fun, Pandora's Box fun. It's different levels of fun. Completely different things. All right. Yeah, I'm saving our favorite one to talk about for last. The Bride of Frankenstein Lives. Man, that's I mean, first of all, you just got a score that absolutely slaps.
Oh yeah, man.
Slash did it again. And maybe his best effort.
Yeah.
For HHN. So, for me, anytime a score sets the mood, that's a lot of points going your way. I think that can, it's not going to completely make or break a house or a maze at the end of the day, but I think it helps elevate it a lot. It can take it to the next step and can create a platform for it. And I don't think the rest of the maze really needed help, though. I think the set design was pretty solid. I thought scare actors were there was a lot. They were all over the place. There was a bunch of pinballs. The actual character design looked great. I enjoyed the, like, storybook approach to it. I know that some people felt that was kind of being, like, spoon-fed a bit, the story, which isn't always a positive thing. But I think in this case, it was a good way to tell a story, So I don't know that you would have been able to figure all this stuff out, what every room purposes without that. And I think, it wasn't giving you too much. It wasn't treating like you were stupid and would never be able to understand what's going on. It was just
right.
Thematically, that's what they went for. And I think it worked well and also helped tell the story. Just a lot of benefits to that. It felt claustrophobic at times, making it a bit scary. I thought it had this really gothic style to it that ours in Orlando didn't go as far towards, and I really appreciated that aesthetic. It just had a lot of things going for it. I thought the facade was really cool. And then, honestly, I know it shouldn't count towards the maze itself, but pouring right out into Silver Screams Queens, it sticks in your head. You're having a great time, and the great time keeps going. So, there's a lot of good things to say about this maze, and my rankings will reflect that.
Yeah, this was probably the maze that I did the most this season, and there was nothing quite like when you were able to time it out, when you kind of make that turn out of the queue and you're in front of the book facade, and the thunder claps, the lightning strikes, and you hear that whee, that Slash's guitar just fucking ripping you into shreds. It truly makes for a very epic moment. And then, you're so right in that the score really sets you up right from the outside for success, because you go through it and the score just continues getting better and better. The maze itself was just so epic, and clearly it's very evident this is what John Murdy really enjoys, is telling these Universal monster stories. And it's like, I think it's 3 years in a row now that I've had a lot of fun through the Universal monster mazes. So I hope he continues this trend. I hope we never lose the Universal Monsters at the event on either coast, to be honest with you, because your guys' 2019 Universal Monsters and then, of course, The Bride of Frankenstein Lives were both just phenomenal experiences. So I really enjoyed it. And again, a tip of the hat to the cast in there. Y'all killed it. Y'all were incredible, super high energy, a really epic cinematic experience. I want more like that from every year of Horror Nights Hollywood.
Yeah, I think one of the phrases that you used that really should have came to my head was high energy. That's exactly what it was. It didn't really ever let up at any point. It was just pure excitement throughout, and that just creates for a great experience in a haunt. Not always necessary depending on what you're going for, but when you execute that, it's gonna be a good time. Period.
Right.
All right. We do have one more. We're not going to talk about the Walking Dead attraction. It's the Walking Dead attraction. Same as it has been. We've talked about in the past. It hasn't changed. It's the bottom of everyone's list. Done. Bye. Haunting of Hill House, which I know you quite enjoyed in Orlando.
Oh, yeah.
And I quite dislike, we'll say, in Hollywood. But I also believe you share that opinion as well.
Oh yeah.
Man, this I want to try to find a few like nicer things to say about what I liked. I liked the approach, I guess, like the storytelling aspect of you were kind of following like Nell's footsteps, basically. It would seem, kind of reliving that.
Yeah.
So from a storytelling aspect, I thought that was a cool approach to it and made it very palatable. Unfortunately, pretty much everything else fell completely flat for me.
Yeah.
I thought the sets looked cheap and poor. I thought the scares were poorly designed. I know one that we harp on a lot is the basement scene. Crawler.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why that couldn't just be a live scare actor. I will never know. It was just like a puppet or a hydraulic puppet, I guess. That kind of was it hydraulic or was he on a stick? I'm not sure.
I think it might have been a performer back there because Hollywood doesn't really do air or hydraulic effects. I think it might have just been pushed out by somebody.
Gotcha. So it was the crawler was on a stick basically. He gets shoved out.
A stick with wheels.
Yeah, and man, I don't know. I'm trying to think of anything else that I could say that's not just sounds like I'm trashing this because I don't want to do that, but it's kind of where we're at. I mean, I just like again, I don't think there's much more to say. The scares weren't executed well. The sets didn't look great. That's about it.
I gotta before I go deep into this, I gotta say, Nico, sir. I have a bone to pick with you.
Go right ahead.
Oh no.
You said that walking through Hill House with the lights on was boring.
Oh, 100%. Compared to all the other houses we did that day, 100%.
My friend, no. The lie detector results came back, and you, sir, are lying. No, honestly, like I totally get it because obviously all the mazes in Orlando are really awesome, and I can see how walking through Hill House, especially you mentioned you're not really attached to the IP or to the lore, any of that. I totally get it, but good God, dude, walking through Hill House with the lights on in Orlando, I think was almost as good as walking through it within show mode for me.
Now I'll agree with you there because it's bad either way.
I'm catching a flight right now. We're gonna talk, man. I'm looking up a flight right now.
No, I'll fly out there instead. I want to go to.
There we go. Okay, cool. Well, I'll host you. We'll have a good time. So no, yeah, I was listening to you guys' podcast, and man, I was sitting there like screaming at the wall, just being like, "No, no!"
Listen, we've all sat in our car yelling at another podcast for their opinions. That's how it works.
Yeah, this was one of the first times where I was like, how dare you? But you know what? I totally get it. You know, all joking aside, honestly, walking through Orlando's Hill House was a complete dream because of Hollywood's Hill House. And which is totally ironic because for as much as we bitch and moan about the black walls and about there being a lack of like scenic elements, Hill House was probably one of the most fleshed out scenic mazes there have been in a while. I mean, certainly this year it's pretty high up on the list in terms of like there was very little space that was wasted. In fact, I can with confidence say that the only portion that had black walls was the finale, where it was a couple of like scares back to back before you exited the house. Now, with that being said, it felt empty to me, despite the fact that there was, there was wallpaper in every room. You know, they had decor everywhere. It just ended up falling flat to me.
Oh, the endless scrim scares. Oh,
the scrim scares, yeah. The effect they ended up going with for the bent neck lady, like, oh God, man. Like I wanted that I really wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt before, because I heard a lot of complaints and I saw a meme before even going to the event about that effect in particular. So I really wanted to like hang on and be like, no, guys, maybe it works a little better in person. It did not, unfortunately. And it didn't get any better throughout the run. They just continued using that effect. And honestly, it just was rough, man. And again, it's frustrating and it's a bummer because on paper, you would say that this is a beautiful maze, but it had no life to it. It had no character to it. Whereas you walk through Orlando's Hill House and you are on the set. You are in the show. You know what I mean? You are in that story. And every inch of it looks beautiful. And it just had character, where Hill House here in Hollywood had none or very little. The scares weren't super intense. The storytelling, I mean, they kind of hit you over the head with the bent neck lady over and over and over again, which I guess, yeah, it's a pretty big plot point. But again, and I'm sorry to do this, but comparing it to Orlando, you have ghosts where I didn't even know who they were, but they were part of the Hill House lore, and they threw them in there because it's all about the ghosts and it's all about the haunting of Hill House. It's not the haunting of the bent neck lady. and and Hollywood just kind of it really fell flat, and it's a bummer because again, I was super excited for this. I was expecting some really neat things, but yeah, it didn't meet my expectations at all, and I'm sad.
So you know what's funny? One of the things that I knocked Orlando for was that instead of having a bunch of hidden ghosts, they kind of fully gave you a scare actor for some of the more background ghosts. And I was like, oh, but one of the cool things about watching this series is all the hidden ghosts you can find. Then I saw them do it in Hollywood and abort, go back, just start over. Orlando was right. We don't need it. Doesn't look good. Looks cheap. Stop, please. No more. Just don't do it again.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, man. And again, to kind of just use the same trick over and over again, like, oh, there's a ghost in the wall. Oh, it's a scrim. There's a ghost in the wall. Oh, another scrim. And then outside of that, my partner Ariana mentioned, and I couldn't unsee it after she mentioned it, that the mannequins they used in some of the rooms just looked so bad. They looked cheap. They looked like dolls you pick up at a thrift shop. You know what I mean? Like I don't know where they got these. This is fucking Hollywood, and you have them looking like that, like American. Not even American Girl dolls look that bad. Yeah, I would have preferred an American Girl doll in their place, but yeah, there was a lot of things that added up that really just did not hit the mark at all.
Well, I guess I figured out where Orlando borrowed their static props in the facade from. because those are fucking terrible looking.
But at least those are far away and above
are,
you. You know what I mean?
15 feet above you. So I guess but they did look like shit. I gotta knock it a little bit.
I'll give him that one. Yeah, I'll give him that one for sure.
But I think this is where we start our campaign. # bring back black walls. Because we've learned what happens when they don't use them. So we were wrong all along. I'm sorry for ever making fun of it.
Yes.
They're much better than what we got.
Apologies. Yeah, and I made that meme. It made me think in our first podcast recording about that scene in Avengers, right, where Thanos is like being asked by young Gamora, like, what did it cost you? And so it just made me think, like, yeah, we had no black walls in this maze at all, but it cost us everything. And it sucks.
Yeah, maybe, you're just not meant to flesh out your transitions. Maybe they should just, reset. Go ahead. Maybe that's just how it should work. Because I don't like the example I saw in this maze of a black wall-less world.
Now, I'm going to say something rather controversial right now, and I'm just going to say it. I would love to see what a Hollywood Hill house would look like with maybe somebody else taking the helm of the execution of it. Maybe someone who's very passionate and familiar with the IP, because it felt like that's what it was in Orlando, because they fucking nailed it. So
yeah, we're not going to get on that track because we know how those conversations go and what they end up being online. We're not going to say any names. We're just going to continue to bash Haunting of Hill House. No,
yes.
I'm kidding. I think we've said enough. I think we went longer in our first recording just because there was a bunch of pure anger, I would say.
Yes.
It was built up. We've let a little bit of that steam off now, so this one was a little more tame, I think. A little more appropriate for listeners' ears.
And I think we hit the nail on the head with what we said today. I think, because we had a very good conversation in the first podcast recording, but we summed it up pretty well here, I think. Yeah, no, I think that's good. So this is going to lead us right into our rankings, where I think what the bottom is going to be. We're going to go back and forth, have Jonathan tell you his, I'll tell you mine until we work our way up to our top. Jonathan, you could tell him what both of our number 6 is. Because, we know. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear here. Hill House, right at the bottom, number 6. Yeah. I hate to say that anything made this recently because the quality of some mazes, just a decade ago, the lower tier ones were pretty bad. Yeah. So having my potentially worst ever maze / house being in 2021, tough to do, but I think this honestly might be my least favorite Horror Nights maze / house. Damn. Ever. It was bad. Yeah. Bad. Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. So what you got for your number 5? Number 5, and granted, I my list has changed now that I've had some time to kind of digest the event, but coming in at number 5 for me is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Because although they did a fantastic job scenic wise by filling in the rooms and really fleshing out the Sawyer house and the different areas that they had, I'm kind of over the Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the event personally. Yeah. Actually, let me bring something up first. I forgot I have my hype list next to me as well, and I want to do some comparison. Sad thing is, Haunting of Hill House was number 2 on my hype list, so ouch. That didn't go very well. But my number 5 is also Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Being from Orlando, I don't really have the kind of fatigue for the property or for the face. However, I think this is just more of a case of it was a fine house, fine maze. I'm terrible at that. I'm sorry. It's okay. I do it all the time too. It was just, there were better mazes this year ahead of it. That's kind of all it is. And I think the next one is pretty close. It was not fully a toss up, but they weren't far off. So again, fine maze, just couldn't get higher than this. Nice. All right. What you got for number 4? Number 4 for me is The Exorcist. Yeah, we kind of covered it. I enjoy the maze. It's very visually beautiful. And it also does the trick. If you're looking to get scared, this one will most likely not scare you. But again, it's sitting at number 4 just because it is a repeat maze, and it's a repeat maze without a lot of changes. None, in fact. So, yeah, that's why it's coming in at number 4.
Well, these are not fun rankings because my number 4 is also The Exorcist. So if you count scare zones, we are currently 7 for 7 on matching our rankings. Similar taste, I guess.
Good taste, sir. Good taste.
The Exorcist was number 5 on my hype list, so not too much variation there. Pretty much what you said. I think it was fun in the sense that they went full on scary. It would provide the scares for you, but it's a tough property to really nail down. The sets are going to be tough to pull off, and they can look cool and the effects can be cool, but you're going to get a little tired of the repetitiveness. And it's even amped up a little bit more when the part that I truly enjoyed, which was making the transition hallways scary, just kept happening the same way every time. So there's more repetitiveness. So, it was kind of limited by that a bit. Kind of finishing the same way I finished TCM it was a fine maze.
Yeah.
All right. So what you got for number 3?
Number 3 for me is The Curse of Pandora's Box. Again, I think we summed it up pretty well when we talked about it earlier. You got fun, you got nostalgia, and I ended up walking through this one quite a bit, especially because the line ended up being much shorter on a lot of nights. And I thoroughly enjoy it. It was a great time every time.
Well, we finally have some variation.
About
time. I'm saving Pandora's Box for the future because I'm going with Halloween 4 at number 3.
Nice.
I did have this at number 4 on the hype list, so once again, pretty close there. Yeah, pretty much everything I said earlier. I just appreciate the direction they took a Halloween maze. I think it reminded me not fully of our Halloween from HHN 24, which is a phenomenal house. But the approach of it doesn't just have to be a shit ton of Michael Myers and nothing else. You can have, even if it is, there's different ways for him to approach you than coming through a door or through a boo hole with a knife above his head, or out of a dumpster, which Orlando likes to do, which is cute and all. But why do we keep squeezing him in as much as we can? Maybe he just doesn't need to be there. Did you think about that? So yeah, just utilizing the property better than it has been, especially for for Halloween 4 in Orlando. So this is a maze that I think is kind of that good to very good level for me.
Nice.
All right, here we go. Number 2.
Number 2 for me is Halloween 4. Now this one moved up. It was originally my number 3. It is now my number 2 because, again, on the rewatch and after comparing it to 2018, I realized, whoa, you made some changes to this, and they were actually changes that added to the experience. And again, I go back to the scrim scares in this one. Fantastic use of that effect because it really made him seem like the boogeyman coming out of fucking nowhere to get you. So, yeah, kudos for that one. I loved it.
It is nice that they utilize scrim good somewhere in this event.
Yeah.
And my number 2 is The Curse of Pandora's Box,
nice.
Which sounds crazy to me. Like, again, looking at, I can't even tell you why I enjoy the maze, but here it is at number 2. It was just, I thoroughly enjoyed walking through that maze each time I did. It was just a great experience. I think it probably is kind of that, like, it's nice to kind of have that almost like just old school kind of local haunt kind of feel, but executed with a higher budget and at a higher scale. That's probably what does it for me. Like, I feel like if they tried to replicate this, it would completely fall flat and I would not like it as much. It's just kind of like a perfect storm maze, to get this up to number 2, especially because, if the number 1 wasn't as good as it was, if this wasn't the maze that it had to go against, if I went in 2019, this really could have been my number 1. So, but number 2, still fantastic for a house that's just fucking paint and no set dressings.
Nice.
All right. So what's both of our top spots?
Number 1 for 2021, The Bride of Frankenstein Lives, baby.
Well deserved.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, they knocked it out of the park with this one. And I love each bride on each coast for different reasons. I think as far as Hollywood goes, this one really is top tier, top notch. I enjoyed it almost as much to almost beat Universal Monsters. I think the 2018 Universal Monsters here in Hollywood is probably it's easily top 3 material for me in Hollywood when it comes to rankings, and this one's right up there with it. So I think from every standpoint, they did a fantastic job. And even Orlando did an amazing job with theirs too. But for Hollywood, great job, y'all. And honestly, might I add real quick, Duff, I truly appreciate that for 2021, your top 2 is 2 completely original Hollywood mazes. So
this is true.
You hear that, Murdy? You got it, brother. Keep it up, dude.
Right? Keep going. We don't need your like 90% IP events anymore. You can do it.
You can do it, man, and you do it well.
I actually cannot decide if, again, only been 2 years, if Bride or Universal Monsters from 2018 is my favorite Hollywood maze. Between the two. Don't know which one it is. But clearly, John Murdy's love of this property carries through to the mazes, having it be my top 2 houses or top 2 mazes, period, in Hollywood. So,
wow.
Just saying.
Nice.
Just saying. When you're passionate about what you're working on, it definitely makes a difference.
It definitely shows, indeed.
All right. Well, that's our Hollywood segment. Again, I just want to say how much I enjoyed the event, especially in a year where we had less mazes, less just space usage. There was just less of an event, to be honest, than there usually is. And I still went there and had such a blast. So to anyone who kind of looks at Hollywood's always getting knocked, whether that's by Orlando fans or even some Hollywood locals are happy to knock on it a bit, don't be discouraged and just don't think it's worth your time. If you have the means to do so and have any interest in doing it, go check it out. Don't just take the internet's opinion and just assume it's terrible. It's not terrible. It's a fun event. At the end of the day, you might not like it as much as Orlando. I still obviously prefer Orlando, but it's a great event to go visit. I'm going to go see it every year. It's a great time. So,
dude, I'm glad to hear you say that, honestly. Yeah, because especially, Orlando is such a very different event. And I think when you compare the two, I mean, there's a lot that I would love for Hollywood to adapt that Orlando does. However, Horror Nights Hollywood is a Southern California haunt staple. It's one of the big ones, and it's fun. I always have a good time going. It has its flaws. It has things that it can fix. But at the end of the day, it's a great time. So I'm glad to hear that you had such an amazing time, man. That's great.
Oh, yeah. Always great. I'll keep going, and hopefully some other people who have considered it but kind of held off do as well.
Come on, Nico. Come join us over on this coast, man.
There it is.
I mean, it's not for lack of trying. It's for lack of interest. Because I mean, to be completely honest, I am way more interested in Not Scary Farm than Halloween Horror Nights at Hollywood.
Which is fair.
I'm still gonna be excited to go there. That's a really busy time of the year for me. Is October. So yeah, I definitely will find time to get out there sooner than later.
We're going to try to make it 2022. We're going to do our best, Nico.
Yeah,
we're going to get you out there. We'll see what we can do. What if I tempt you with squeezing in Vegas in between?
I don't know. We'll have to see.
That wasn't like a serious. You didn't have to give me a serious answer. Jesus. But yeah, so let's go over to Orlando for just like a real quick little segment here, because now we have Jonathan on, who has been to Orlando, and he's been quite a bit, actually. How many days were you there again, actually, at the event?
We were there for 5 nights, so pretty much a full week. And
that's a lot of HHN in for one visit.
Oh, baby, it wasn't enough. Like, yeah, I could have stayed there another week, man. I mean, good God.
So I'm gonna ask you for your rankings. I won't give mine because I just did them last week on the show, so unnecessary. So you'll just kind of get to rapid fire them. But first, kind of like quickly, anything you experienced that really stood out? How did you experience it? Stuff like that. Kind of talk about your experience in Orlando.
Cool. I mean, first of all, it was really awesome to get to experience an anniversary year. I have very quickly become a fan of the event and also of the lore. I mean, they've been at this for 30 years. They've built an entire world of characters, of locations, of lore that ties to the daytime park a little bit, even at times. I really thoroughly enjoyed getting to see it fleshed out with HHN 30. This is going to be a hard year to beat personally. And I love that I got to experience 18 on a smaller scale. We only did one day. We did like a couple of days in 19. And it's to the point that I'm doing a full week there for a reason. The event is top notch, from the food they offered this year to the scare zones that were a lot of fun to the mazes that just the fact that it was mostly original mazes this year, and I enjoyed it so much, that just speaks volumes to the passion and the amazing creative teams they have out there, that they don't need to rely on an IP. They have their own world, they have their own fandom, and you see the results of that because people were there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was busy every single night because y'all love your HHN out there, and I can see why. The show was incredible. Adding Express to our ticket was also like a game changer, and I am so ready for Hollywood to do that because I will be there more often than I already am. Because honestly, it really does change the event. But honestly, through and through, my God, what a great time. And yeah, I can't wait to do it next year. And again, there's a reason why Horror Nights Orlando is now a Halloween season staple of mine, and it's going to continue being that for years to come. The event is just next level.
Yeah, no, I'm happy you enjoyed as much as you. I'm happy you got to experience it even more than you have in the past and really get like the full. You basically got a local experience. How much you went?
Yeah.
You went going 5 times is. That's a lot, your average person goes once. So, going 5, that's a lot more experience with it. Hopefully next year our trips don't line up on the same week. So I'm not on your coast and you're on mine at the same time. But luckily we did get to meet up for one day when I flew back. So that worked out well.
That was, by the way, an amazing night, man. I had so much fun. I'm glad that worked out.
It was a great time. It was a pleasure to be able to hang out with you. And we got a pretty large group going at some points too. It was a really fun night. So real quick, before we get into your actual rankings, I have a couple things I want to ask. Favorite drink?
Oh man. God, the name is escaping me, but I'm pretty sure it was your favorite drink as well.
Poison Tea Party?
Yes. That was refreshing.
Okay. Yeah, right.
That was just smooth. I mean,
it's the only mixed drink that I drank throughout the event because, like you said, it was like easy drinking, refreshing.
Yeah. Especially out there in the humidity and the heat, you get one of those babies down and so good, man. So good.
All right, favorite food item.
Oh man, and I'm bummed I didn't have it more often. I think we only tried it the final night, but it was the jalapeno.
Yes.
You mentioned it too, Nico. The grilled cheese. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So good.
It's a hit.
That thing was phenomenal. I hope they find a way to sneak that in every year because
please do.
I can't believe I didn't get one the last night. I just got so caught up in what we were doing that I never made it over to get it. And I'm kind of sad now thinking about that. Never got my last jalapeno popper. Yeah, devastating. All right. How much merch did you buy? And what's your favorite item?
I bought so much merch, dude. I mean, I have doubles of the 30 years, 30 fears shirt where it's Jack and Chance on there because I'm like, I'm going to wear one and I'm going to keep one because it's good. I bought pretty much outside of I pretty much bought every piece of merch outside of the IP ones like the Hill House or the Texas Chainsaw. I have both of the famous jackets, the bomber jacket and also the denim jacket.
Mm-hmm.
Which, hey, real quick, just let me get on a soapbox for a second. Wasn't happy with the sizing on either of those. They could have been a little more inclusive about the sizing for both of those really awesome jackets because they fit. They don't fit as well as they ought to, which is interesting because I buy both of those sizes and fit well in both of those sizes. Or I'm sorry, in both of those items. But so for the next year. But yes, I bought a ridiculous amount of merch and I'm very happy. I think the denim jacket is probably my favorite. Outside of that, it's definitely the 30 years. Yeah. Outside of that, it's definitely the 30 years, 30 fears shirt because that one is pretty bomb.
Did you buy all the patches for your denim jacket as well?
No, I did not actually. Yeah, I'm not a big patch guy, I must admit, but they were pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, I had to poke them on it. Got to catch them all. Even in Hollywood, grabbed it, you know.
Amazing.
So, yeah, but no, that's a great merch item, and I'm not surprised with how much you went home with. All right, let's do the fun part here. Let's get your rankings. We could start with scare zones if you'd like.
All right. Okay. Which, by the way, both of these lists was pretty hard. Both of these were very excellent in terms of both houses and scare zones. So it was hard to kind of narrow it down. But bottom of my list, and Nico, you're right there with me on this one. I'm pretty sure. Crypt TV. In fact, all of you guys.
Yep.
For the same reasons that you explained on your podcast. Yeah, it could have been executed much better. And then after that, I've got it's gonna be controversial, but I'm not very attached to it. Lights, cameras, action.
Yeah.
Oh,
you're gonna get some slander on Twitter for that one.
I know. But listen, I'm a new fan to the lore. I know it won Maze of the Year, or I'm sorry, Scare Zone of the Year. So I apologize ahead of time. It was also very loud. Kind of unnecessary loud, but it was fun. It was fun, but again, it's because I'm not super familiar with everything that was there. But I can see why you guys loved it.
I didn't bring up. I don't think I brought up this point that you just brought up when I talked about it on the last episode. But one of the reasons that I'd also got restricted a bit of me being able to put it higher was because I hated the sound effects and that.
Oh God, overwhelming.
It was loud. It was just a lot of random screaming that didn't really match up with anything. Right. Just wasn't good.
No,
some of the music cuts were fine, really loud, but fine. But a lot of it was just no.
Yeah, it lacked nuance, I must say. It just felt kind of like they just threw a bunch of things together and there you go. Here's your background music. So
yeah, still finished number 2 for me, but that's something that held it back a bit.
Yeah, definitely loved though Jack and Eddie in that zone, and then when they threw Chance in there, that was pretty fucking cool. Bummed I wasn't there for that, but really great moment for you guys, so that was awesome. Number 3, 30 years, 30 fears. I think to me it reminded me a lot of Home with the flame towers, and kind of it was eye catching to walk in and see that truss tower, to see the stilt walkers, to see the people up on the scaffolding, again, especially because here in Hollywood, we don't really have stuff like that. So to me, it was like, wow, this is a really great way to start the event. It just made you feel small. It made you feel like, all right, well, I'm about to get wrecked because these things are huge. And here I go.
I think my only thing with it is I appreciate it more from the entrance of the park than I actually did when I was in the scare zone.
Sure. Yeah. Totally get that. And yeah, and it wasn't as eye-catching, like you guys mentioned, as the arcade ones, the N arcade. That was pretty cool. Visually, it was very memorable.
I mean, I'll take the that trust in flames over basically anything. To be fair, that holds a very special place in my heart. So
Yes.
but yeah, no, the aesthetic for Anarcade as a whole was much better.
Yeah, definitely. Number 2 for me, Gorewood. That was pretty dope. For especially again coming at it as a Hollywood person. I really love that they kind of incorporated the boo hole scare. Wow, the boo hole scare, if you will, where they had those little structures built for the creatures. I forgot their name. I'm sorry. I'm new to
Knuckle grunts.
Yeah, there you go. I love that they came out of those and kind of scared people. I love what they do with the trees there. With the glowing.
Yeah, they're like living. Yep.
Right. Yeah. Pretty cool. So yeah, again, coming at it from the perspective of a Hollywood guy, they really fleshed that out really well. And coming at number 1 for me, Seek and Destroy. This one really grew on me. Same reason as you guys said, the 70s sci-fi, the vintage sci-fi look to it. I loved the audience interaction they had there. I wish that there was a little bit more story to it. However, overall, really enjoyed sitting in that scare zone and watching everything happen, especially on the stage. So, yeah, pretty rad, man.
Yeah, definitely agree there. That was Nico. That was your number 1 too, right?
Yeah. Seek and Destroy. Yeah.
All you made up for it. Seek and Destroy, Nico. Don't worry.
All right, to houses. Let's do it. Let's start with your number 10. What you got?
This one again, it was tough, man. I really had to sit and really ponder this list for a couple of days. But
yeah, I know. The story is when we hung out that one night, I could not get an answer of your complete rankings. I asked him at least 8 times, and he's like, "I'll think," and never really got a full one. So it's nice to actually hear it now.
Believe me, I was thinking about it since night 3. That's when the thoughts started, and it's very difficult. But here we go. Number 10. And only because of the IP fatigue, thanks to Hollywood, is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Although I must say, beautiful, beautiful house.
Now Nico has a bone to pick with you.
That's true. There you go. We're even. We're even. But yeah, really loved what they did with it. Very fleshed out. The gas station at the beginning was truly incredible. It really brought you into the experience, if you will. So yeah, that's number 10 for me.
Fair enough. I don't agree, but fair enough.
Number 9, and this I'm definitely gonna get some flack from you guys for. In fact, a couple of these, just because again, show mercy. I'm new to I'm new to Orlando, so I don't really get the lore as well as as you guys do. Number 9 for me was Welcome to Scary, an amazing house. However, I was very confused walking out of it. I had no idea what I went through except for the meets part. That's the only thing where I was like, oh, hey, I know him. Everything else, I kind of had to learn about because, again, I'm very new to the lore. So apologies ahead of time.
To be fair, it was only my number 8. So
there you go.
I don't think Nico had it too much higher.
No, we had that at 7.
Yeah. Number 8 for me, and I think Nico, you shared some of the same sentiment with this one as well. And I'm gonna get some flack from it, so I apologize. Number 8 for me, Icons. Again. Believe me, it's a fun maze, dude. And I thanks to it, I am more in love with the Icons at Horror Nights Orlando now. But again, I just don't have that attachment that some of you guys have with it. But it was a fun maze that I really looked forward to going through every time. So, and again, this is a difficult ranking list for me, man.
Yeah, no, it's not. This isn't the easiest top 10 in the world.
No, it really isn't. So, 8 is Icons for me. Apologies.
Fair.
Number
7.
That's the lowest I've heard anyone put Icons, to be honest.
Damn.
Yeah. Now
that I think about it from what I've seen, I think that is the lowest from, that's very surprising.
Oof. All right, Mike's show's going to get canceled after this. It's nice knowing you guys. Coming in at number 7 for me, The Bride of Frankenstein Lives. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Loved how fleshed out the castle was. Again, the nod, big tip of the hat to the scenic design team at Orlando for always blowing it out of the water. I mean, the facade alone for me, or I guess the entrance, if you will, the first scene with her up there with the monster, it's incredible. The scale of it all was really awesome. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. And they did some pretty fun things with the scares in there, and also bonus points for the cameo by the creature from the Black Lagoon. So
nice touch.
Yeah, nice touch indeed. Number 6. Sorry, you guys, is Beetlejuice.
I mean, that's too high for me. That's the part that offends me.
Yeah, indeed.
I've seen Beetlejuice around, around 6 and 7.
Okay, all right.
I haven't seen it higher than 5, so that's not too surprising.
I'd put it lower than 10 if I could, to be honest. But...
yeah, definitely listening to the podcast, your last episode, guys, I was like, fuck, this is going to be rough. But all right, so yeah, Beetlejuice, it's an IP that I've been wanting at the event for a long time. And I think as far as telling the story of the movie, Orlando nailed it. It was fun. And I'm saying this, Duff, in a good way. It was fun. I had a lot of fun in the maze.
Not bad fun.
Not bad fun. Okay, good fun. Pandora's box.
Pandora's
fun to me.
Gotcha. That
exactly.
You're speaking my language.
Yes. So I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I do see that it has its flaws, and definitely listening to you guys talk about it, I was like, yeah, I can see why. Especially going through it at HHN Light, for those of you that got the opportunity to do it, I can see why coming in this year was kind of like meh. But I think they nailed it overall. And plus, we didn't get it in Hollywood, and I think we probably never will at this point, which is a bummer. But I think honestly, Orlando was the team to take care of that one, and they did a great job with it.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Number 5 for me is Puppet Theater. Now, this is where the list just keeps getting harder and harder, man, because Puppet Theater, man, was it beautiful.
Doesn't feel like a number 5, does it?
It really does it. It really does it. And it was tough putting it in this spot, but it'll make sense as I move up the ranks a little bit. But Puppet Theater was truly incredible to me, and the thought that it's a pile of plywood right now really breaks my heart, man. I wish I could move into that maze because wow, or that house. Sorry.
Oh, it was absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah,
absolutely gorgeous.
And that very first mirror gag almost killed me. So kudos to them.
That's just pulling it right out of the book. That's one of those great classic HHN scares that they utilize that you see every now and then, and I love when they do it. Absolutely love when they do it.
And I saw them. They explained it in the damn video, and it still almost killed me. So, so good, man. So good. Coming in at number 4 for me is Revenge of the Tooth Fairy.
Oof.
I I know, man. I know. And listen, y'all got to experience it last year, in 2020. Y'all got a little taste of it.
Yeah.
I'm coming at it from a, I like to call it a masterclass in maze storytelling, because it really did flesh out the story for you very well with its combination of narration, the writing on the wall. I loved the storybook aspect to it. I really would have loved to, in some alternate, like you guys said, in some alternate dimension, the mazes don't have the barrier. I think it would really bring the scare level, the scare factor up quite a few notches. But I really enjoyed Tooth Fairy, and I think the more that I went through it, the more it grew on me, and it especially reminded me again of home. Just like with the entrance, it reminded me a lot of a Not Scary Farm maze. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a great time.
Maybe what it was for me was they changed the voice actor of James Westthorne, and that might have just taken the whole thing down for me because it wasn't the same performance.
Interesting.
Ruined the whole house.
Wow, very interesting. Okay, yeah, and I can see that. I mean that's a major part of that experience. So I can definitely see why that.
I don't think that's actually why, but it was disappointing. In my head, I still hear the one from like rather than the one from 30.
Dang. Wow.
That also maybe because I went through it like 80 times during light because, why not?
All right, here's oh man, here's the controversial part even more. Like it's already been pretty controversial, but here we go. My top 3. Coming in at number 3 is Wicked Growth.
Oh.
It was a tough choice, guys. It was really tough, man. Have I said it was tough?
He still has some good houses on there. Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, he has a good house left.
At least there's someone, I don't remember who it was, so I can't even trash him if I wanted to. They had Wicked Growth at 9, and I was ready to throw hands through the internet.
That's
I think I remember seeing like one person had that, and I think they were doing it just to be pedantic.
I was gonna throw my phone out the fucking window.
I must say, Duff, hearing you talk about this maze, but took me right back into it, man. And it really is Halloween perfection. It is Halloween personified. And again, that lattice scare was another moment that almost ended my life because holy crap.
Yep. If you got that spot on. Oof.
Oh, the first time we went through that, dude, I didn't know what to do with myself. I felt my soul leave my body for a second in that moment. So good. So good. And again, from start to finish, what a fantastic experience throughout. And I was lucky enough to see that little scene with the witch where she's like, the body comes out of the cauldron and she's like, get back in there. I was lucky enough to see that. Again, like I think you mentioned it was it didn't take itself very seriously, and I think I love it for that because at the end of the day, it still delivered such a great product. Fantastic maze. So number 3.
I'll accept 3. Top 3 is fine.
Top 3 is fine. Yeah.
Okay, good. Number 2 for me, Case File. Yes. To have a noir fleshed out as a haunted house, I've never seen it done before, ever. I've never seen anybody even attempt that.
Nope.
And Orlando killed it. Like they nailed it in such a fun way. And they got all the tropes in there. They got all the perfect moments in there. Ariana pointed out how you kind of hear Tim Foyle's narration turn into, the narration you hear throughout the rest of the maze. I mean, holy smokes. It goes from Tim to Boris in a very seamless way. Mm-hmm. I loved it so much. And I don't think, I don't know. I would love to see someone else try and attempt a noir maze, but this was it, man. This is going to be top tier for me forever because, again, such a perfect execution of the genre. Truly, really fun.
I would love to see it attempted, but it also has that kind of fear of, can they do it? Like this is like one of those things.
Right.
Like feels like it shouldn't have worked, but was it lightning in a bottle? Can it be done again? I don't know. Would I like to see someone try? Yeah. Would I be scared that it would flop? Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Especially because this house was thrown together basically at the last minute.
Well, I mean,
compared to like how all the others were set in stone.
Yeah.
This one was the floater. This was kind of like the unknown location for a while.
Which is
I will
crazy.
say, I know someone who's been going to this event for a long time. This is their all-time favorite house already.
Wow.
Like just like that. Event ended, all-time favorite, done.
Dang.
So this definitely left an impact on a lot of people.
Yeah, and it definitely left it's going to leave a lasting impact on me. There was a lot of times that we went through it and there was a short line and I'm like, y'all are sleeping on this, man. Because this is it. This is the maze right here. This is so different, unique. I loved it.
And I guess that means for number 1, started from the bottom in Hollywood. Now it's here.
The Haunting of Hill House. I want to make that noise you just made, Nico, like a ringtone. for anytime work
right,
calls me.
It's 11:40 on the East Coast, and then we just got that word.
I think they nailed the IP for me. I'm a big fan of the show. I'm a sucker for a scary, spooky house. From a scenic design standpoint, they knocked it out of the ballpark. And I think it does have a lot to do with the fact that Hill House here in Hollywood was such a disappointment. So getting to live through that, and I mean, the facade has my heart too. The fact that they actually built the damn house and that you got to walk by it and then into it in such a realistic way, it really transported you. Not that the other mazes or the other houses on this list didn't transport you, but again, as a fan of the IP itself and of the show, it was everything I wanted and more. It was fantastic. It was beautiful. And again, to me, walking on in show mode or walking through it in show mode or walking through it with the lights on was such a fun experience. Truly a masterclass in building suspense. And they did some really fun scares. The freaking blackout hallway that they had there, very similar to the one they had in Graveyard Games. That was true fear. I felt true fear again in that hallway. Bravo, Orlando. I loved it.
I will say it was a bit disappointing for me. I had massive hopes for it, but man, that basement scene, the few rooms it stretched for, that's a masterpiece of a segment of a house.
Yes, indeed.
It was perfection. The rest let me down a bit, but I still enjoyed it. It was still good. But yeah, hey, and you know what? You had some shockers in there, but I think they all have fair reasonings at the end of the day. That's the great thing about haunts. They're all so subjective. We enjoy what we enjoy. Unless you put Wicked Growth at 9, then I don't respect your opinion.
Indeed. I'll agree with that for sure.
And I'm only half joking, just so everyone's aware. I'm definitely going to judge you if you say that. Anyways, Jonathan, thank you not only for joining us tonight, but for this entire installment of this series we've had. And also, seeing as this is the second time we've recorded this episode. So thanks for coming back again for the same exact recording.
Of course. And thank you guys for staying up late for this. Just know that I truly always enjoy listening to your podcast. So it's been a pleasure to be able to join you guys and really, talk about both haunts here in Hollywood and Orlando. So thank you guys for having me on, and let's do it again, man. I'm ready. I'm ready for next season already.
We're ready, and we're definitely going to invite you back on at some point. It's a pleasure for us as well. But while you're still here, why don't you let the people know what you're working on and where they can find you?
Sure thing. So, haunt season may be over, but I do have a slew of podcasts planned. I'm going to maybe step back from the YouTube game just a little bit because I didn't get all the content that I wanted, and plus I got super, super busy with work and other things this Halloween season. So be on the lookout for podcasts. We're going to review all of the SoCal haunts that we went to, and then you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the Hauntline. You can find us on youtube.com/the Hauntline, which I do have some little short haunt history documentaries planned for the future. So be on the lookout for that. And maybe even a couple of coast comparison videos where we break down the mazes from both coasts, because I love doing that already. So be on the lookout for that. And again, you can find us on the web, thehauntline.com, for links to all of our stuff.
Awesome. And I'll definitely be looking forward to those coast comparisons. That's my kind of shit, for sure.
Yeah.
And of course, thank you again. Nico, also thank you for making sure this file does not get fucked up like it was when I tried to play producer.
We have 3 different backups going right now, so we're good.
Look at this guy. So much better than I am. This is why I just talk and let Nico watch everything else.
Exactly.
All right. Well, you can, of course, follow us on social media as well. That's at HHN365 on Twitter and Instagram. We also have a YouTube channel, HHN365. And if you ever kind of want to pseudo join us here on the show, you can leave us a voicemail at 407-906-3405. And we will be back next week And this time, I think Mike will actually definitely be back. He was almost back this week. It was more of a scheduling thing. So look forward to the legitimate Welcome Horror Fam next week. But until then, see you in the streets.